If you got so good at playing Identity V and kiting that you got to play in the Identity V Global Tournament Call of the Abyss, representing an entire Identity V server for multiple years in a row, what would your advice be for playing Identity V more competitively? I got to sit down with one of the best Survivor players in the entire NAEU server. This is Paulblems, and he has represented the entire NAEU server in multiple COA tournaments with his team Before You, specializing in the kiting and assisting roles. Those roles are something that a lot of players overlook about Identity V. So what is a good strategy you and your team use to pick survivors when playing more seriously?
Basically, the characters we choose, like in tournaments or just in like regular, you go with the meta. So the meta always tells you, especially when you watch, the professional China players, you want to see what kind of hunter and what kind of survivors will be able to get you that win. Survivors, it's basically more survivability, which is just basically distance and basically harassing. So basically, you're always going to want that one rescuer, and then whatever else you have is basically more of the harassing and supporting just for the kiter.
Picking your role based on what is meta at the time with a mind towards whatever the best meta strategy is then seems to be the way to go. But that is only a small piece of the puzzle, as you're not playing Identity V alone. There are usually 3 other survivors in the match with you, and if you're playing with your friends, you probably have the option to take your matches to a whole new level. How can I work with my team to build a strong team composition?
How we adapted is we understand each other's roles. We have a rescuer, we have a supporter, we have a kiter, and then we have a decoder. But as we noticed that the meta sometimes change to where sometimes you don't need a decoder, sometimes you just need all harassers, or sometimes you just need all kiters. In a team, you're gonna want to have at least, each person at least have 2 roles. Rescuing and supporting, or supporting and harassing, or kiting and harassing, or just decoding and rescuing.
What do I do if my teammates can't play every role well or aren't able to play well against certain hunters then?
We adapt. So let's just say, okay, we're kind of weak on this aspect, but we can fill in some of the other roles that we're not weak on. Since there are so many more characters in Identity V, it kind of helps teams, and yes, it did help my team to where we can adapt to each other's playstyles, and we can sometimes switch. Sometimes I can probably go into like more supporting and let someone else kite, because I'm very good with this one supporting character than the kiting character. And especially you adapt on maps, you adapt on the characters that are selected. So it's very good to have so much versatility in a team.
Having multiple roles you specialize in definitely leaves your team with a ton of flexibility that can help when you're working on unique strategies with your friends as well. But you will find that your team still feels incredibly disorganized. How can a team improve their communication? Do they need a person to act as like a leader or a shot caller or something?
So that depends on like how you execute, what your tactics are in the match, how they're going to want to set up. For my team, for the leader, or like however you call it, like the shot caller, everyone has a different role and each team probably knows what they do. So a lot of emotions go into playing tournaments, because sometimes you'll be like too concentrated on kiting or too concentrated on harassing. So it's really good as a survivor team that there is 4 people, because you can't all do it yourself. And that's what's really good, is that you're always going to have that one leader, that one backup person, because sometimes when you're kiting, you can't do it all. You're just knowing where to go, knowing where to die, and knowing your setup for everything. And then you have one person just probably like check out the ciphers, how many items we have, or what's to do next.
Having a shot caller and all 4 of the survivor players being aware of their job in each match can then lead to some amazing moments where you can outplay the hunter big time. The problem is these sorts of moments almost never happen, and that's even in a situation where you're in a voice chat with your teammates. There are some cases when you do it with your team, but then you realize that nobody is decoding. We need to know when and how to assist teammates like the competitive players do. How and when should I assist my team in a match?
So how we balance that is basically keeping the distance. So basically in the beginning, it's all about knowing where the hunter is, and setups that causes a little bit more time. So of course we want to decode, but if you don't have like the right characters, we'll just completely just go straight into decoding. And then if we have like a harasser, if you at least kite enough for the ciphers to pop, for the harasser, then that's where it transitions. Not everything's perfect. Let's say it goes wrong. You're still gonna have to use the regular rescue, but then you have to think about, okay, while you rescue, what's gonna happen in that aspect of when you get off a chair, potentially body block, potentially not. What is that gonna do for the team and how you transition? How are we gonna change the tide of the game?
Where does a veteran player or even a beginner player start if they want to join the competitive scene?
Even though we're still late in the game, you can still catch up. For me personally, is to learn a really good character or a certain type of role that you want to understand. Basically, if you just want to do kiting or supporting, get really good at that role, show your skills with that character, and then once you understand that role, like if you just want to do harassing, then learn all the harassing roles. If you're a really good harasser and you can see that, and time will tell, you can still get to the tier that you want playing a really good one role that you understand in this game. That's what people will be looking for as soon as you get into the high tiers, especially top teams. I can tell you, like in my shoes, I was just playing Perfumer, being a really good kiter. That's what I was known for. One character, because Perfumer was meta and she was the best kiter, so that's why I got to be on the team before you, which was with Schmitty and Leg.
Whilst you're improving your IDV skills, climbing that leaderboard so that teams will notice your skill and dedication to the game, you are probably still struggling in solo queue. Check this video out here to help you make survivor picks to give you a better chance at surviving the solo queue chaos.